I need this to make me whole. We're building this club with the eye of the
All right. Yeah, I'm super excited to chat to Mr. Terry from Bruxist and a lot of other bands. So, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Mark. How you going today?
Yeah, good. So you've got this new album that's dropped recently, but you've obviously done a lot of other things as well, musically.
Yeah, I guess I could just self-describe myself as an elder statesman of metal and hardcore and whatnot. Yeah, been going since 92, 93. So,
Yeah, you've been in some solid, like you said, metal bands, but also a lot of other tangential kind of stuff as well compared to that as well. So yeah, I had a look at your catalog and I didn't know about all your kind of works. But some I had heard, but I didn't actually realize it was connected to you. So that's yeah, you're because you play quite a few instruments and obviously very well versed in composing things.
yeah, I've just got that attraction and I just need to write things, to make things, and when things come up, depending on what's at hand or what I think it needs to come through, I'll grab an instrument or even learn one if if need be, to get that stuff out. I mean, I'm primarily a guitarist, and then I got lumped into the vocal category in my first band, and yeah, I've been doing like vocals, and sometimes I'd be a frontman of a band and whatnot. So that's sort of a both of those are sort of co-mingled for sort of top spot there. But yeah, I can do bass, I can do drums, I can do piano and keyboards, and in the last
Saxophone too.
yes, of course, I was getting
Yes.
there. So yeah, I've added sort of saxophone in there, and also in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been on the double bass, which is not too far from actual bass, but it is its own adventure and instrument too. So
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of first dip into kind of yeah a lot of that kind of musical journey stuff you've done, and we're definitely going to arrive because the main thing is we're going to talk about the new album and the new what's happening with that, and also your
yep.
recent show. I definitely want to kind of dive into that. So I wanted to. So how did you first get into music? Like, where did that kind of begin? Was it parents or friends, or how did that kind of journey start?
Well, I was always like into like listening to music and whatnot. My first love was actually like the old school sort of New York hip hop of the late 80s and whatnot. And that was my sort of entry into like being interested and understanding that there was a world of music and people who made it and whatnot. And then from there, like I started to getting into metal and stuff like late primary school, early high school kind of thing. But the actual getting into the learning of instruments and stuff, my dad had a acoustic guitar that he could sort of barely play. But yeah, once I was like trying to mess around with it and stuff, he eventually grabbed one for me, and then I went from there. I guess it was all mainly self-taught, just going into the guitar magazines and using the tablature and then also a lot by ear and stuff. So I'm not formally trained. I can barely read the old school instrumentation or the notage, I should say. But yeah, it's all about just listening and then reacting sort of thing and using the limitations you might have on the instrument either to your benefit and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, around late primary school, early high school is when I first started to like actually pick up the guitar.
Yeah, because you've done, I mean, the projects are pretty varied. Like, for instance, like, the Subterranean Disposition. I mean, that's just, yeah, that's super varied, jazzy, doomy, sludgy, a lot of different things. I mean, and that, yeah, I think that third album is pretty, I mean, most of it is really incredible, but I think that third album, that's, yeah, pretty amazing, really. It's quite a journey, like across the whole release.
Thank you, Mark. Well, yeah, for Subterranean, it's just all been sort of the melting pot of all the stuff that I've done, but then through the lens of like a slower, longer song form to be able to like, I don't know, look at it like, all right, it's like you going on a train and you go through like different places. You see open fields, or you might go through a city or whatever, that sort of thing. And yeah, adding like the saxophone elements and having keyboards and stuff like that in it. It's about like painting that certain topography within the song and not having the constraints of like a 3 minute second. Yeah, if it's going to be 10 minutes or it's going to be 15 minutes, then great. That's it's just a long journey basically. It's a lot of fun, and it's kind of, I had ideas of what I thought it would be, and then every time you sort of finish something and you give it some space and come back to it, or you hear a bit of feedback and you're like, oh, this is, this is like vastly different than like what I was initially trying to do, but it's all the better for it as well. So yeah, I, that's my passion, and that's my life's work. Is just to explore what's coming through and try and sort of sculpt it into something that I really like, and then hopefully others will connect with.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, I'll dip back into some of the heavier bands you've been in, but also the that Ultra the Drill stuff is very, that's dipping into that jazz stuff as well. So you've obviously got a fondness for that because you can. I mean, that's different again compared to Subterranean. I think I read about it, which is a good description. Is like a dark, doomy jazz, like, and I think that's yeah, it's very apt for it. So. Yeah, you're obviously a fan of that. You can tell, like it's not a throwaway. It seems like yeah, you're really kind of committed to it. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, I guess that's sort of my personal journey. I haven't like dragged anyone in to try and, play that sort of slow, murky stuff. But yeah, I'm sort of exploring writing with instruments that are kind of foreign to me. So like piano, like I have basic skills around that, and and it's all about like learning as you go. So I've been doing that for about 8 years, and there's an album every year. So but yeah, I've gotten some good feedback, and I've also sort of traversed into another sort of world that's a sort of doom jazz, dark ambient, where yeah, there's a few different sort of groups. I play for a group called Senketsu No Night Club, and they're two Italians that will do sort of like electronic versions of the Vainoras sort of stuff. And also another band called Demonologists. They're a bit more like industrial, but has lots and twists and turns, like a sort of like a really dark, creepy kind of Mr. Bungle sort of thing. So, yeah, it's led me down all these weird different paths that if you'd asked me like, 10, 15 years ago, if that's what I was going to do, I'd be like, nah, there's no way. But it's just about showing up and just following, yeah, what you're into, and then letting that lead you into conversation with musicians or whatnot and stuff. So I feel quite blessed as like it's just a different way to express myself, because like I love heavy stuff, but within my listening tastes, like I'll listen to that and then I'll put that down, and I'll need to cleanse the palate and have something a bit calmer, or yeah, and vice versa too. So I feel like yeah, that's something that I'm grateful to be able to get and be creative and express in different ways, in heavy ways or in subtle ways, or the spectrums in between, that sort of thing. So
and yeah, and those I mean, there's several projects there. They're all continuing, are they? They're continuing at the same time, or as they come to fruition, or as they as you're creating, in between doing other things as well. So they're ongoing.
yeah, they're all ongoing. So like I'm doing like the Vainoras and the Altar of the Drill. There's a new album coming for this year, and then there'll be a Demonologist one that I've featured on. It's the first collaboration album we've done together. That'll come out later this year on Aesthetic Death from the UK, and yes, Senketsu Night Club. If not this year, maybe early next year, they'll have something out. I'm not sure what label that's going to come out on, but yeah, that's all ongoing, and it's just like an ongoing sort of conversation. So they'll be like, they'll just send me pieces that they've worked on, and then I'll jump in, and it's kind of like a conversation, a really slow conversation that happens sort of through file sharing. Obviously, because of the, being in Australia and the guys being around the world sort of thing. But it's really fun, like it's like, all right, what are they gonna throw at me this time, and how am I gonna react to it, sort of thing. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good of that, a lot of good collaborations happening now. I mean, I think that's one of the beauties. I mean, there's a lot of, we can talk about how it used to be and tape sharing and all those things we used to do, and we didn't
yep,
have the internet and all those things, which anyone anyone under the age of 40 would, cringe at or cry about. But now the beauty of that, myself included, you can work on things by people sending you files, and it's very quick, and it's yeah, I think it's fantastic. That side of it is really good. Like the collaborations worldwide, that probably would have never happened before.
exactly. And like the fact is, like for both those projects that I mentioned, like I haven't actually met any of them in real life, but it's kind of been like, yeah, just an ongoing conversation, obviously through messages and then through music and stuff too. But hopefully, down the track, yeah, we'll be able to sort of get out and travel around the world and maybe even sort of collaborate and be able to do some shows in their areas or something like that. But it's a definite positive, like, of this, the technology that's come up.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I wanted to dip back into, you've obviously been in some super heavy bands. Order of Chaos, you're obviously in Earth as well, and then
Yep.
Damaged as well. So that's, yeah, all pretty phenomenal bands. So that's,
Cool, thank you.
yeah, pretty good experience from that time, and that was a pretty, I have to say as well, it was a pretty peak time in Melbourne as well for those bands. It's a bit of a spread of time, but yeah. So how was the experience in those bands?
Look, I've got nothing but like fond memories and gratitude for all those experiences and opportunities. And yeah, just as a young man, I was just like, right, I want to go ape shit. I love this music. I want to do as much as I can. And I guess within a scene that was, or scenes, or like within Melbourne, but then also like when you start to tour and stuff. Um, Comparing like sort of now to then, I feel like it was a little bit smaller. You would have like less bands and whatnot. So then if you're known as like a good player, then obviously you're gonna try and get sort of poached for other people's projects or to play with them or whatever. And my philosophy was always like, well, these are like conversations. So what can I get out of this conversation with this group or this person? And ultimately, over time, as I sort of like look back, especially like around the start of doing Subterranean, I found myself writing, and then I was like, oh, I can sort of trace this back to, having my experience, say, in Earth or Damaged or whatever. There was like this history of like working with different people that I could draw on, as well as, my own sort of writing sort of process and stuff. So yeah, it was some crazy, amazing times. And I feel like without trying to get sort of too sort of nostalgic or old man about it, I feel like, yeah, it was a really special time within like sort of extreme music in this country. And I think by and large, a lot of the groups, while they were, sort of trying to do similar things, they had found their own sounds or had their groups had sort of specific characteristics about them, sort of thing, that maybe is sort of getting a little bit lost today. And there's a lot
Mm.
of sort of bands that you can sort of, you're like, well, what does this sound like? Or like there's nothing that sort of will make them jump out from like, the pack, so to speak. So within that, yeah, it's got to be grateful that like I met so many amazing characters that were just as passionate as me about music, and we yeah, we made some really cool albums, did some cool like shows, and yeah, like it's just a beautiful thing, like thinking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, it was a yeah. I think yeah, it's a great body of work, and like when you're talking about, I think bands standing out. I mean, I think of one classic band. I think of Christbait. Like I just think,
Yep.
from their journey from the very early grind stuff into the sludge and the journey, and they even had a bit of jazz in there as well. There was a bit of that journey for me. Like I just they they just stood out so much. You know what I mean? There was a lot of, as you said, a lot of bands trying to do very heavy music, but a lot of so much variation.
Yeah.
So I think we were pretty lucky, like around that time. I think it's, not to say that there's not great bands now, but yeah, I think we were super lucky, around that
Yeah.
time.
Look, I think this is some amazing bands, like newer bands that are coming out now. But I think, it's still of a time and a place, and I'm sure like, whoever's like really pushing forward at the moment, they'll sort of have a similar sort of hindsight sort of conversation where it's like, oh, cool, this was really cool and this stood out because of this and this.
Mm.
But yeah, so yeah, no, Christbait were amazing. I remember like, yeah, watching that transformation like in real time and going, all right, they're doing this, and then, oh, all right, they're doing something else. But there was never this thing of like any sort of I don't know, gatekeeping. It's like, oh, you can't do that, you can't change up. I mean, Auto Chaos did the same thing. We started, essentially as like a, I don't know, like a sort of, well, a carcass cannibal cause of death, sort of in that sort of vein. And then later on, when we went through members and stuff, yeah, we started to add the sort of hardcore punk sort of element into it and strip
I
it
remember
back.
that. Yeah.
And no one was ever like, look, your band's like no good or it's cancelled because like, you can't change up like that. People were just like, oh, okay, all right, you going off on this tangent now, great. So yeah, there was a lot of like sort of just acceptance within sort of the earlier days and stuff. Yeah, it was an awesome time.
And your other band members there, they've got some good history as well. Like
Oh yeah, yes.
yeah, Dave's been in, Terrorust and Clagg, and also the band that I can never pronounce, YLVA, which are pretty. I don't know who can pronounce that name.
I think it's Ilva, so
Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna say it like it's
work.
I, but yeah. Yeah, amazing body of work, and then also he has the band Agon Him. There's that two-piece
Ah, that's
boom
yeah,
sludge band as well. Yeah,
that's
he's got
right.
his
Yeah, yeah.
he had his fingers in lots of pies. I mean, yeah, we went to do our first Bruxist show last weekend, and traveling back and forth to Adelaide, it was just stories about what we had done and all the craziness and all like the amazing musicians that we work with and stuff. So he's got an equally similar huge body of work, and Dan Nahum also has as
Yeah,
well. Recently has been touring overseas with Alters, and
yeah.
they'll be doing another album in the future, and he's done his own like solo project, Bleakwood,
Yeah,
and
Bleakwood's great, isn't it?
yeah, he does the sort of the doomy death stuff with Futility as well. He's been in the Veil, that Sydney band that's like, very, very eclectic on the heavy side, but on the lighter of the heavy side. Amazing musos too. So like yeah, when this was sort of coming up, Order of Chaos had finished in 2018, and I was getting to know Dan. Obviously, Dan Nahum on drums. He's also with me in Subterranean as well.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So we were sort of connecting on that level, and he's like, "Have you like, are you done within the faster style of the kind of Order of Chaos with the the hardcore punk and the metal?" I'm like, "Well, actually, like I got all this stuff written." He's like, "Well, we can do some stuff." I'm like, "All right, sweet." So that was around 2019, I believe. And being from Canberra, he started to come down maybe every 3 to 6 months, and we had a couple of jams together and started to sort of forge a sound between us. And then Dan was like, "Oh, I'm having a bit of a look around to see," and he's like, "Dave would be awesome." I'm like, "Yeah, Dave would be awesome, but I think he would probably be too busy and say no." But little did I know, he's like, yeah, sweet, let's go for it. So we had an initial jam 2020, about 2 or 3 weeks before COVID hit. So that stopped a few things and stuff. And then, both the guys are quite busy with music, in their own right. So yeah, it's taken a bit of a while to actually launch this band, but yeah, we're finally here now. So yeah, I can't say enough good stuff about these two guys. And I kind of pinch myself that I get to be in a band with such amazing, intuitive players and really decent, awesome humans as well. Like that, as far as like being in bands and stuff, you can get the best players and you can do this and that, but if the chemistry is not there, then like that's a good massive portion of that for me to be able to like, just be comfortable with the people that you're at, you know what I mean?
It's a big deal, isn't it? Like you said, you can play in, and I've only played in very minor bands, but yeah, you can get great players and that. But if the fit is not good, in the creative process, or even just spending time together and rehearsing, it just doesn't work. I mean, we've probably all been there when you went, when there's um, you know, the extra wheel, it's just not working, and it's just not. And I suppose as we're getting older too, we want to be pretty productive in what we're doing. We want to, we want to get it moving, and we want to, be able to communicate our ideas. It's pretty important.
Yeah, yeah, getting older and stuff, and like Dan and Dave don't have children, but I have one child and stuff, and so the time management things becomes pressing. It's like if you still want to do it, you've got to do it, and you've got to do it in a limited amount. So it also speaks to people who can just jump in and go, all right, let's do this. It's not like a when you were 20 and you want to rehearse like week in, week out. The other thing is for Bruxist, Dan's up in Canberra and Dave's in Ballarat and I'm in Melbourne. So there's a logistical thing as well. So so far we've been like really successful in just jumping in and doing sort of what other people might sort of think is the bare minimum or maybe not enough to prepare for things like recordings and obviously this first show, but everyone does their homework and comes in prepared and yeah, there's that mystique about like when we get together, like we enjoy each other's company too, and yeah, things have gone really, really quickly and easily, and we've slotted in, and it was kind of like people were going last weekend in Adelaide, they were like, how is this your first like gig? It feels like we're watching a band that's been playing for a couple of years or something. It's just testament to that homework and that energy between us, and then also the history and stuff as well. It's like we know what we're doing, and we don't have the time to like fluff around. So let's get it done, and let's get it done to the best of our ability. And so far, it's been absolute like pleasure in that regard.
I wanted to touch definitely on that because I've watched I didn't go to the show, but I definitely want to touch on the Matt Skitch show because it would have been a sensational show. But at first, I wanted to talk about your set. I have watched that from the YouTube footage, and I would definitely concur with that. But it definitely seemed, yeah, like you'd been playing because that was your first show, wasn't it?
Yep, very first
Yeah,
show.
yeah, it was very tight, and I mean that, yeah, and energetic, and yeah, it sounded awesome. So
Thank you.
and it looked like it went down really well.
Yeah, so it was a long day of music, and we were on first there at 3 o'clock, and I think Damaged ended up finishing up at about 1. So very long day of music, but the Adelaide crew came out quite early, and a lot of the bands, there was a lot of camaraderie going around, so sort of everyone loaded in and stuck around, and yeah, it made for a really cool first show, as in like feeling like you're getting a bit of a bit of support and a bit of eyes on you and whatnot. There might have been a tiny bit of um, we released our album the week before, sort of thing, and tried to drum it up, to the gig goers and whatnot. So there might have been a little bit of anticipation, I'm not sure, but yeah, it definitely felt the energy felt really good, and had a lot of conversations with musicians and punters like over the whole night, and yeah, it felt like a very good start to what we're doing, and jumping into that live circuit.
Yeah, no, no, it sounded very good. And how was the overall day? Because it was pretty, obviously, it was pretty star-studded with the, the lineups and yeah, what was covered pretty, pretty legendary kind of, yeah. What more can be said about, Matt? Like just, phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. And like I would say that, he chose to, bow out of like, performing, and he's going out, he went out on top. Like he was, for someone who's probably just a little bit older than me, and I'm pushing late 40, uh, that sort of athleticism in drumming. He did three sets. He did one set of like old school thrash covers in Demoniac, and then bust obviously Diabolic Rites and that sort of stuff. There's just so much grind in there, and he just hits so hard. It's just amazing. And then obviously at the end, um, Hilly, the original guitarist from Damage, they jumped up, and Dave, our guy from Bruxist, he jumped in and did the Damage set. They did about 7 songs there, so that was like an
Wow.
amazing nostalgic kind of trip. Yeah, like yeah, absolutely flawless. And if I was him, I'd be like absolutely like, wrapped with like how the night panned out. And the other bands were like all amazing in their own regard. And obviously it was under his Skits' curation. So a lot of evil stuff, there's some black metal in there, but there was also some old school thrash with Persecution. Sun Tzu from Adelaide were like amazing. Everyone brought something just that tiny bit different, and yeah, it kind of had a really sort of yeah, I had a lot of like sort of nostalgia on the night, even with some of the bands that I hadn't seen before. Yeah, it was just a good sort of old school Aussie metal feel, like from 3 o'clock through to 1 o'clock. So a
Yeah.
massive day, but absolute success, and yeah, all the bands killed it really.
Awesome. No, that sounds good. Yeah, like I said, the footage I've seen from, yeah, different acts that played, and that looked pretty amazing. And I heard amazing things. I wanted to touch back on the album. So the album was released just before that gig. So
Yep.
how was the recording process and that? You said so obviously there were songs from quite a while ago. Did you have to did you have to was there many changes before the recording? Because obviously you've had those songs sitting there for a while, some of them.
Yeah. There was a minimal amount of changes, just little like kind of arrangement things or maybe accents and stuff. By and large, the way that I went about the Bruxist writing was like I'll sit on the sort of computer and I'll sort of play to a click or whatnot and assemble like a song, and I'll put some sort of computer drums on there just as a sort of simulation. It's like, oh yeah, it could be grind here, it could be D beat here, it could be a breakdown or whatever. Without it being anything that needs to be sort of set in stone. And then I'll like sort of show Dan. He's like, oh yeah, cool. And but where it really comes into its own is when we sort of jump in, and I guess these demos afford these guys like this better listening to go, all right, there's a song form there, and then we'll go through it. And if something's feeling not right or flat, one of us will like speak up and go, oh, actually, maybe we should try, to enter this part different or whatever. So, yeah, by and large, like all those 8 songs really didn't change too much in the overall song form. Just really just like finessing on the account of like say drum parts, bass parts, and then also integrating a lot of backing vocals and stuff that I had in mind, and a couple of ideas that the guys had too to sort of jump into that sort of arena just to make it sort of like a fuller attack, because they're all actually amazing vocalists in their own right that have done vocal recordings and other albums and stuff. So we're really going to start to live, and then maybe on the next record really utilize all their different voices and stuff like that.
Yeah, that comes across strong. I mean, obviously the playing is very good, and we'll break down some of the songs as well. But yeah, I did notice that you can definitely hear that, yeah, that vocal range in there because all three of you contribute vocals. So it really, yeah, it does come across quite strong. I think it really makes it pop, especially for like a three piece. So it definitely
Yeah.
comes on very strong, like as much as the instrumentation is very front forward, for the whole release.
Yep.
What was some of the, I know it's kind of a boring question, but what was some of the influences? Because I can hear quite a few different things in there. I mean, I can hear the death metal. I can also hear the death and roll. I can definitely hear that vibe in there as well. But I can also hear the D beat and the crust stuff as well, and also some hardcore kind of underground hardcore. So there's quite a few flavors in there. Like yeah, it's not straightforward.
Nah, even when I try to do things in my own mind in a straightforward way, I'll present them to whoever I'm playing with, and they're like, "This is fucking weird," or "No, this is definitely not straightforward." But I guess it's just me sort of chasing dynamics in song form. So if I have a riff and it's like oh yeah, this sounds like a D beat riff, but then it's like, how can I take these notes and change it up because I don't want D beat from start to finish kind of thing. I want it to go on a journey, an extreme journey, of course, but there's no like really lulls or anything. But I want it to go. How can we, yeah, go from A to B, but kind of make it exciting for us as players, but then also for listeners as well. So yeah, just drawing on, some of the old school death metal influences and like sort of adding the HM2 Swedish sound in there.
Yeah.
Um, I guess like for me, like when I was sort of talking to Dan about it, there's that American band called Trap Them that, there's sort of
Yeah.
the hardcore background, but then adding the HM2 and a little bit of death metal influence. Well, your shirt, like I was going back and listening to
Yeah.
like Doom and stuff like that, stuff like Dysphere,
Yeah.
a little bit of the tragedy, a little bit of oh, I'm forgetting the Swedish band. What are they called? Wolf Brigade.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like I guess I predominantly come from a metal background and have slowly sort of uh, added into my musical DNA and diet, like more, so I'm metal, like looking into hardcore, where a lot of the stuff that I'm getting influence from is like hardcore looking into metal sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's all sort of bits of that. And then as far as the death and roll and rock stuff, I think it's just sort of like adding that dynamic and then like thinking about it later, going, "Oh, where did that come from?" sort of thing, like I do like rock stuff, but yeah, it's kind of thing. It's just a thing of like, oh, we need to like have a bit of four on the floor here just to break it up or something like that, and then sort of listening to it, and going, "Oh, okay, that's strange. That's like a sort of, I don't know." We had this little in joke where one of the parts sound almost like a death metal Motley Crue sort of thing, even though none of us like that band per se. There's a little bit where we were just like sort of laughing to ourselves, but that's where kind of my influences are sort of coming from. I mean, there's even like a tiny little bit of sort of black metal right at the end of the record, and that's where Dan was really getting into that because he's done a lot of black metal and he's into that aesthetic. So we might sort of add a bit more of that, just a bit more of everything as we go through the next time around. But yeah, that's sort of where we were sort of coming from. But I always like whenever I do something, I think, oh yeah, it sounds like I'm aping this, and then someone will come up to me and go, "Oh, this sounds like this," and I'll be just like, "What?" But that's the perspective thing, You,
Yeah, it is
yeah.
absolutely.
So, but that's a cool thing because in their mind they're like, "Oh, that's amazing! It sounds like this," and then I'm like, "Well, I don't even listen to that band, or I haven't heard them for 20 years, or whatever," and yeah, but that's the cool exchange though, because then you start to think, well, if they hear that in that, well, maybe I should go back and listen, and maybe there's something more for me to be influenced by. So it's just a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think because, and I think even like three tracks in, I was thinking it was pretty. I mean, it wasn't, as we mentioned before, it wasn't straightforward, but then the curveball started to kind of, as it went along. I mean, particularly Two songs I would mention is Piss and Vinegar and Revoked. Like
Yep.
from the midpoint and that the change, and I think that probably even dips into what you were talking about earlier with the jazzy stuff and that where it's Bungle and I think even like Scorn, that old project or whatever that used jazz in that, where it kind of takes this curveball with the tempo change and that, and I was like,
Yep.
fuck, that's really cool. Like it was just like, hang on, the tempo and there's like the little the little changes there, and both of those songs, yeah, really. I mean, even Revoked, it kind of goes into that wig out as well, that little bit where it's like, um, you know, yeah, I dug that. I thought that was super fucking clever. Like just,
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a different one, and I guess we were sort of conscious of that within formatting the songs and how we were going to present it. I sort of look at it like as an album to me should sort of represent almost like a set list. Like if you were going to play all those songs live, which we actually did because they're all the songs we can do at the
yeah, yeah,
moment.
yeah.
Um, we present it in that way. So you come out the gate and have your sort of barnstormers, two or three or four or whatever, and it's kind of that's how we sort of formatted it. So there's 8 songs. If you look at it like old school, as in either a tape you turn over or a vinyl you turn over.
Mm.
It'd be like 4 barnstormers on side A, and then side B we're going to give you a little bit more, and then come back around at the end and sort of smash you out, sort of thing. So, yeah, Piss and Vinegar and Revoked have their different sort of mid pace, and there's some quirks in there and stuff, and
Mm.
yeah, definitely like yeah, it's sort of interesting. They sort of stand out in there, and I think yeah, to have it all like barnstorm all the way through, like it would sort of maybe lose, my attention, maybe other people's attention,
Yeah, yeah.
3/4 or whatever. So hopefully that's something where yeah, people can like go through and then go, oh yeah, 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 and then like, oh okay, and then sort of yeah, come back around again.
I also like the purposeful kind of the sequence of the tracks and stuff, like you said from the very start, and that end track as well, which I can't remember the name, that closed it off really, really quite well as well. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I think that's good in an era of releasing just endless singles and that. And I know that's the way it is in the last kind of 10 years or so. That's modern culture. That's what it is. But I think it's nice for people that like to listen to a whole album. I think it's a whole document, and that's how I, as a reviewer, but also as a music lover, I want to listen to the whole thing as well, and I want to, go on that journey rather than throw away, this is the hit single, this is the, it's not,
Yeah,
it's a different approach.
it's a different approach, and yeah, I will say that like. Yeah, just as a musician and as someone that's still putting out music, I'm not going to approach it like that. Like, I'm not going to like, throw singles out into the ether. I'm an album person, like yourself. I grew up and that's what it was all about. You got the physical product. Maybe you didn't even hear it, or you just looked at a cover and you were like, you know what, I've got a good feeling about this, and you pay your hard earned, and then you sit down with it and you give it time, you give it space, you give it attention. It's a relationship, and it can be a reciprocal relationship, and then if that inspires you to do something, or you pass it on to friends or whatever, and it goes around and all that sort of thing. So that's the way I like to present the music that I create. It's always going to be in an album format. I mean, maybe like EPs here and there or whatever, if that's what the circumstance, sort of kind of calls for or whatever. But within this, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a Rain and Blood type of scenario. At least 8 songs, within just under 30 minutes,
Yeah.
but. I feel that our sort of sound and our tempos and style, if we were to do 45, we might, lose people by the end of it and stuff too. So that was conscious as well. But yeah, no, like Bruxist will be like an album kind of band, and that's how we want to like present it. It's I think we're just gonna like go that way. We're the old gardens is how we put our stuff out. I'm sure there'll be like people that will like appreciate for that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's going to work. It's more about impact, and yeah, it's certainly from the footage of your first gig. I mean, I think that's definitely there was no, there's twists and turns, but there's no, yeah, the foot didn't leave the accelerator for the whole set, which is great. Um, I just want to talk about the album cover too, because I think the album cover is phenomenal. So I think that's a good. I mean, I like where that kind of intersection of the art and music, and I think that's very, it's very striking, like for it to come out of the gates, and great cover art that really, it suits.
Yeah, well, thank you. I totally agree. I guess for me, in the aesthetic that I kind of like, I don't really sort of get into like the over the top. I don't get into the gore or like the logos that we can't sort of read or whatever. So yeah, I guess a running theme of like a lot of the bands that I've been in is that the logos are quite legible, and then the art's got to be striking in its own way and sort of try and pertain to the sound of the music that's encasing it. So yeah, I was kind of looking around and like I wanted to sort of give that nod to the sort of Xerox photocopy sort of stark sort of real or real world I should say, not sort of fantasy or gore or anything like that. A lot of the lyrics, yeah, are just sort of pissed off observations about the human condition and the way we sort of behave in our society and whatnot. So yeah, like this sort of came up online. There was a guy, Fazell. He's an artist and also in the crust scene in the Philippines. And actually, he's gone on to do a lot of like posters and art for some of the bigger names in the scene in crust and D beat, like kind of worldwide. But
Wow.
like, some of his stuff was a little bit more like uh, and like it's amazing. Like I'm not, no, I'm not like disparaging on this at all, but a lot of it was more like skeletons with leather jackets and spikes and different and like
Mm.
weapons and stuff. And that has its place and it's really cool. But not for kind of like what I was looking at for Bruxist. But he had this one thing, and I'm just like, oh, it was just so striking straight away. I'm like, I really want to be able to use this for Bruxist. So yeah, just got into his DMs and we worked out a thing. It was still available and got it probably 3 or 4 years before it was released. So we just sat on that kind of thing.
Unreal.
Yeah, just that sort of, yeah, the world does feel like it's sort of been kind of pulled apart by unseen hands or seen hands as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was just kind of fitting for these collections of songs, and it kind of feels like the song with the album with the artwork and the lyrics and stuff is kind of making a time capsule kind of statement. Even though the songs have been around for a while, it's kind of, I guess, yeah, it feels quite poignant, for me at least anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's I mean, I think the interconnection between all of that is perfect. And it's also, I think you want, as you said, the image is very striking, but it's perfect for merch as well. Like that's I could, when I seen that, I thought it looks amazing, and you could see that on a t-shirt or a long sleeve straight away. Like that's
Yeah, it's not too busy, and so like you'll have a lot of the t-shirt there, but then it's juxtaposed by so it's quite visually striking, I feel. And yeah, we got a bunch of merch, and so we had it in the black and white color, but also in the red, and the red was really nice too.
oh
So
wow.
we have that for our sort of next shows, and we'll pop that up them up on the Bandcamp and stuff as well.
So I was going to talk about exactly that. What's coming up next? So obviously, as far as I know, you're playing Essence Fest in Canberra. Is there anything in between or after, or what's on the calendar for the rest of the year?
So yeah, now that we've stepped into the live arena, we're chatting to a few people. I can't announce it right now,
Yep.
but we'll definitely be doing our debut in Melbourne in July.
Nice.
So just yeah, watch our spaces for an announcement. I'm sure that'll come up pretty soon. And yeah, we're hoping to just sort of delve into our little black book of all the people that we sort of know and try and tee up a few things. We want to go up to Sydney, maybe do some regional Victoria stuff, and then yeah, on through to the big Essence Fest, which Subterranean did last year. So Dan, our drummer, he is essentially one of the big guys behind Essence and stuff, and amazing like concept. Last year went like really well. It was really successful as far as like getting a lot of the community where it's not just extreme metal. There might have been sort of like maybe dark ambient or stuff that's kind of on the fringes that like a lot of people would sort of like, but maybe not put into like a similar sort of gig. So, and it seems like with the announcements that they're making around, yeah, just sort of really forward thinking lineups where you can sort of like see so much diverse yet under the same sort of big umbrella of dark heavy music in different tangents. I think it's going to be like a really good event again this year as well.
Yeah, it's pretty varied. There's like noise acts, there's post punk, there's all sorts of and even the Friday, the pre-show is pretty amazing as well. They're like super, yeah, super solid. And I mean it's because Canberra has a history, as we know, like a such a big I mean, that was, Metal for the Brain was
Yep.
pretty historic in Australia and pretty famous for. I mean, this is obviously, as you mentioned, it's a bit more curated and diverse, but there's definitely, what he's doing is pretty amazing. Like, that's a good, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like well, it's not filling a gap, but it's like seeing that like there's potential there and jumping into it, and it seems like people yeah, are wanting that stuff and wanting to have that kind of experience where they're like, oh, I'm going for this, but then I saw this other stuff that I didn't know about or whatever, and turning them on to sort of slightly different sort of genre stuff that it all falls under this similar sort of thing, I think. As in, like, yeah, if you like this, and you take the time and you're patient, you'll probably, find something in this other stuff as well. So, yeah, and like you said, it's, Canberra had the medal for the brain thing, and I was like, grateful to be a part of that for a number of years, and then also do the pilgrimage even when I wasn't like performing as well. So I think, yeah, look, a good, I saw a good five of those years out of the 13 or 14 that they did. So, and yeah, like that was kind of sort of sorely missing from like the underground Australian stuff. We need like festivals that are done on a grassroots level kind of thing and just celebrate, all that the amazing Australian underground has to offer, I reckon.
Yeah, no, it is. I think and I mean, it's offering that alternative. I mean, they certainly have that overseas when you look at most recently, even the Roadburn Festival that tends to cover all the flavors and that, and
Oh,
Dark Mofo tries to do that as well. So I think it's covering those bases. It's not very narrow, but I mean that's the way. There's something for everyone, and you'll see other bands. So that's pretty exciting. It's
yeah, for sure.
yeah, and congratulations on the album. I love it. I think it's a great album. I think it offers something different. You know what I mean? Although it's the influences are uh, age old stuff that we all love, but it has got that point of difference in there and a lot of variety.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, it feels good for it to be out now. Sort of, yourself as a museo, it has a either a fairly lengthy gestation period from like creation through to like yeah sculpting it further with band members and then on through and until presenting it to the community and stuff. But yeah, it feels really good, and we hope to get out there and just sort of show what we got to as many people as we can and play with some really cool bands that are out there. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
it should be a fun sort of year. with Subterranean, we sort of I don't know, play maybe once a year or once every 2 years kind of thing, and that's a good thing. But I'm really excited to actually sort of get out there and perform a little bit more regularly with sort of Bruxist moving forward. So hopefully we'll get 4 or 5 down this year, and we'll see what next year brings after that.
Excellent. And is there, I mean, I know it's early days, there's definitely plans to record more as well. I mean, I know it's fairly new, the album, but
Well, with us, so we in 2020 when like we actually had our first like rehearsal with the three of us, there was the songs that are now released on that album, the 8 songs. And then when everything got locked down, I was like, oh wow, oh shit, this could be the end of the world. I better start writing. So I've got about 13 or 14 there. And what we'll do is that both Dan and Dave will jump in and do some writing as well to really shake it up and really give it dynamics in between in songs. So yeah, there's a big body there, and given that we're elderly statesmen of sorts, and time is a little bit against us, we'll be jumping in sooner than later and smashing out a second one.
excellent. No, that's good to hear. Well, yeah. So I think the key thing is, yeah, people check out well, we'll have the links at the end of the interview and what we pop up as well as the review. Check all those links on Bandcamp and also your socials as well, and keep an eye out for shows that are going to pop up by the sound of it. So is there anything else you need to get out to the people out there?
No, like yeah, if anything has resonated while you've been listening to us, yeah, check out Bruxist and what we've got on the go, and yeah, I've got some other sort of things that are different than that. So, like, yeah, I have a website at terrorust.com as well, and all that stuff that we sort of chatted about that's further abroad, like the saxophone stuff or the Doom stuff or whatever, is kind of all there and accessible to sort of check out. But yeah, thank you so much for like the opportunity to speak. It was a really good chat, and yeah, hopefully we'll catch up and perform for you really soon in Melbourne.
Sounds good. All right, I'm just gonna hit stop now. And they should definitely check out your website because it's very good. The flow of it is very good because sometimes the navigation of some things you get a bit lost. So yeah, so definitely check that out. So
Oh, that's good to hear.
yeah, no, it's good. All right, I'm just gonna hit stop now.